All set.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to today's long-term care hearing. I'm Chief Actuary Brad Boban. I am filling in for Commissioner Moraine today, who could not make the hearing. This is the Maryland Insurance Administration's first regular public hearing in 2023 for long-term care rate filings. This reflects the filings that have come in over the past 3 months since the last hearing that we've had. Today's hearing is going to focus on rate increase requests from 3 companies. These requests include increases from a Surety life insurance company, who is proposing an increase of 95.3% for all insureds under policy form AL 2100P-MD. Genworth Life Insurance Company has filed 3 filings. 2 of those are for individual products. There is a rate increase request for an average of 148% being requested for policies forms 7042 Maryland, 7044 Maryland, 7042 Maryland Revised, and 744 Maryland Revised. The other individual policy set is for form 7052 Maryland, and the average increase there is 135%. For each of those filings, the requested increase varies according to some benefit characteristics, and I believe that Genworth will be getting into those details when they give their testimony. And then Genworth also has a filing for a group long-term care market product. This is for form 7050 CRT AARP. On that filing, the requested increase is 176%, and that does not vary. That is being requested for all policyholders. And finally, the third carrier who has filed for this hearing is Transamerica Life Insurance Company. They have proposed an increase of 156.5% for all insureds under policy forms TLC 1-FP MD 402, T0L 1-FP MD 402, L1 1-FP MD 402, and MLCI-FP MD 402. These requests altogether impact about 12,982 Maryland policyholders. The purpose of this hearing is for the insurance company representatives to explain the reasons for the rate increases and for the MIA to consider whether the proposed rate increase is in compliance with Maryland law and regulation relating to long-term care insurance. We will also listen to comments from consumers and other interested parties. We are here to listen and ask questions of the carriers and consumers regarding the specific requested increases. I would like to take a quick moment to introduce the folks who are with me here from the Maryland Insurance Administration. On my team, I have Jeff G. and Adam Zimmerman, who are both senior actuaries who perform long-term care rate review. And we also have Craig I, who is our communications director. So I'd like to go over a few procedures we're going to follow today. So first, the carrier representatives are going to speak. And then after that, there will be time for public comments. Normally, we would call on anybody who signed up to speak in advance, but we did not receive any registrations. To the extent the time and technology permit, the MIA will hear from unregistered participants who can access the Zoom webinar platform. You can communicate with us through the chat function if you would like to speak after the carriers. With the exception of the MIA staff, this hearing is not a question and answer forum. Comments from interested parties were received and reviewed in advance of this meeting. The MIA will continue to keep the records open for an additional month after this meeting until March 28th. This is because it was communicated to us that there may have been some technology issues with some people not receiving notifications that the hearing notice have been published on our website until recently. And so we wanted to give more time for public comment. And so, the filings will still be open and under review, and public comments will be accepted until March 28th. And finally, the video of today's meeting, as well as all written testimony submitted, will be posted on the MIA's website on the long-term care page. This long-term care page can be accessed by going to the MIA website, clicking the Consumers tab on the top of the homepage, and then clicking on the long-term care link. To help ensure excellent sound quality throughout the meeting, we ask all panelists to please stay on mute unless you are speaking. And also, if everyone could please state their name and organization clearly when they start speaking, that would be a great help for the record. We're going to first ask the carriers to speak. Carriers, we call it an A to Z order. And then afterwards, other interested stakeholders will be invited to speak. And so with that, I'd like to please call on the representative from Assurity Life.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philip O. I'm the representative for Assurity Life Insurance Company. The company is requesting the approval of a 3-year phase-in flat increase of approximately 25% each year on the current base rates. This is approximately a cumulative 95.3% increase on the current base rates. The increase does not vary by issue age or other policy characteristics. A rate increase is necessary at this time due to higher anticipated future and lifetime loss ratios. The higher loss ratios result from a combination of lower lapse, lower death, longer claim continuance, and lower investment earnings on the assets. The company has been evaluating this block and updating assumptions based on the actual experience, as well as industry experience. The projected experience is now worse than what original pricing assumptions were projecting. The combined effect of updating the lapse, mortality, and morbidity assumptions to better reflect the actual experience, as well as industry data, resulted in a need for a rate increase. Basically, the current premium levels are inadequate. Therefore, the company is requesting a rate increase to help alleviate the projected adverse performance on this block of business.
Thank you, Mr. O. First, I'll turn it over to my staff. Adam or Jeff, do you have any questions for the panelists?
Yes, I have. So Mr. O, can you let us know if we could not approve what you requested? So what do you have any plan in the future for rate findings?
Yes. So if the full amount isn't approved, we'll probably try to follow up for the remainder, for the remaining amount. But if the full is approved, I think we'll be sticking with, as long as the experience doesn't get worse than our nationwide projections in Exhibit G of our memo, then we won't be pursuing anymore until experience is worse than that projection. But if the full amount is not approved, then yes, we would have some follow-up requests.
Thanks.
So, as you may not be aware of, our regulation limits the increase that we will approve in any 1 year to 15%. So I see that objections have not gone out yet, but for us to be able to consider a 95% increase, it would need to be phased in over a longer period of time to comply with that 15% annual cap. I had one question about what kind of margin are built into these projections, both margin for moderately adverse experience into claims, and what kind of profit margin is being achieved by the loss ratios that you're filing for?
So the projections that I've provided in the memo are based on best estimate assumptions. So there are no margins built in. However, there are exhibits H1 and H2. Let me double check that. H1 and H2 that include a 10% margin for moderately adverse experience.
Okay. And can you comment on the profit margins that was built into this product originally, or is being tried to be recouped now?
I do not have that off the top of my head, but I can look that up and get back to you on that.
Yeah, that would be appreciated if you could look into that. Then I had one more question. I was looking at the details of the rate manual and the memorandum, and I see that there were 10 pay and 20 pay rating categories, and the memo states that the 10 pay is not included because they've already paid their 10 payments. So is my understanding correct that all of the projections in the filing do not include those 10 pay members, either their
Correct.
claims or their premium? You were just showing us projections for the other two cohorts?
Correct.
All right, and I guess as a secondary follow-up question, it seems that on an actuarial basis, it would be justified to give a higher increase to the 20 pay than to the lifetime pay members, just given the fact that there are relatively fewer future payments. I understand your national block is a pretty small size, and you might have some credibility concerns, but even, you know, using combined claims experience and just modeling out the different premium patterns, it seems like it would justify differences. Did you model that at all internally and decide with the flat increase, or was there any thought to looking at those two cohorts separately?
We actually looked at the entire cohort, all of them put together in aggregate, but we can definitely take a look at them separately and see from there, because it's possible that the pricing at the time for 20 pay may even suggest something else, but I haven't looked at the projections themselves yet. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that was all the questions that I had. Thank you very much, Mr. O. Next, I will please call on the representative from Genworth Life Insurance Company.
Sorry, had a little trouble getting on video and off mute there. Good afternoon. My name is Alex Vichinsky. I'm an actuary in Genworth's long-term care in-force business unit. I am in good standing with the Society of Actuaries and the American Academy of Actuaries. I understand the commissioner is not able to attend today, so Brad, thank you and the Maryland Insurance Administration team for holding today's virtual hearing and for providing Genworth and our policyholders an opportunity to discuss our long-term care insurance policies. I'd also like to thank all the policyholders for your interest and participation. Genworth understands that your long-term care insurance coverage is important and welcomes this opportunity to participate in the hearing. Genworth understands that our ability to support, service, and protect you, our policyholders, is of absolute importance. We take this very seriously and affirm our commitment to being there for our policyholders when they need us. Genworth has been selling long-term care insurance in the state of Maryland since 1978 and currently provides coverage for approximately 28,000 Maryland policyholders and approximately 1 million policyholders nationwide. I'm here today to speak specifically about our current long-term care premium rate increase filings, which are pending with the Maryland Insurance Administration. Genworth understands premium increases can be difficult for our policyholders, so we're committed to providing information that explains why rate increases are needed. We also want to discuss the various options we offer our policyholders and the ways we assist each of you to make informed decisions about your specific LTC insurance needs. Genworth is currently seeking rate increases on 2 individual products issued between 2004 and 2014 and certificates issued between 2010 and 2013 under a group policy form sold to AARP, an association group. So to be clear, when I use the term policyholder in my remarks today, that reference also includes certificate holders in the case of the association group product. When we price these policy forms, we utilize professional actuarial judgment to develop assumptions that look forward as many as 60 years into the future. Genworth employs our best efforts to complete a thorough professional assessment at the time of original pricing and as we evaluate the blocks on an ongoing basis. Since these policy forms were priced, claim information, which informs our assumptions, has increased significantly for Genworth. We have seen that claims continue to cost more and occur with higher frequency than originally anticipated. Yet we are sensitive to the impact these rate increases have on policyholders, and Genworth is sharing in the cost of these rate increases. We have stated publicly that all proceeds from approved LTC premium increases would remain in GLIC and be used for the sole purposes of paying LTC claims, and that none of the benefits from approved LTC premium increases would ever be paid to Genworth Financial, its shareholders, or other stakeholders other than GLIC policyholders. These blocks of business are being managed solely for the benefit of policyholders. While information on claims for newer products is still developing, such as the Flex One and Association Group policy forms, there are trends we see developing and expect to continue into the future, which will impact expected claim levels. For the assumptions supporting the Flex One and Association Group rate increase requests, Genworth leveraged significant new claim experience on similar and related product series. Genworth has a high concentration of policies with a compound benefit increase option at about 61% of policyholders. 44% of policyholders have a 5% compound benefit increase option. Due to these inflation options, these policies typically have the richest benefits and are expected to have the largest claims. In 2022, Genworth began differentiating rate increase requests based on the level of benefit increase options to address specifically the potential future experience associated with these options. It is our intent to act in a timely manner and work diligently with regulators to obtain approval for the full amount of the proposed rate increases, as we seek to avoid more significant premium rate increases on newer blocks that would otherwise be required when the average attained ages are higher. As it relates to the specific rate increase request at this time, our Choice 2 and 2.1 product series includes the following policy form numbers: 7042MD, 7044MD, 7042MD Rev, and 7044MD Rev. The rate increase request varies between policies with unlimited versus limited benefit periods, as well as policies with low benefit increase options, meaning 1% or less, versus high benefit increase options. We are seeking premium rate increases of 233% for policies with an unlimited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, 132% for policies with a limited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, and 117% for policies with an unlimited benefit period and a low benefit increase option. We are not seeking rate increases on policies with a limited benefit period and a low benefit increase option. Acknowledging Maryland regulation, Genworth would be willing to implement the requested rate increase over 14 years for policies with an unlimited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, 9 years for policies with a limited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, and 8 years for policies with an unlimited benefit period and a low benefit increase option, with no more than a 15% increase in a single year. The limitation of 15% in a single year will result in a higher rate level than requested due to the cost of delay in implementing the full rate increase. This rate increase will impact approximately 8,200 policies. These policy forms have received 4 prior increases, and any approvals above 15% were implemented so that no increase exceeded 15% in a single year. Our Flex One product series includes policy form number 7052MD. We are seeking premium increases of 188% for policies with an unlimited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, and 132% for policies with a limited benefit period and a high benefit increase option. We are not seeking rate increases on policies with a low benefit increase option. Acknowledging Maryland regulation, Genworth would be willing to implement the requested rate increase over 11 years for policies with lifetime benefit periods and a high benefit increase option, and 8 years for policies with a limited benefit period and a high benefit increase option, with no more than a 15% increase in each year. This rate increase will impact approximately 3,400 policies. This policy form has received one prior rate increase, which was implemented over a 2-year period so that no increase exceeded 15% in any single year. Genworth issued a group policy to AARP, an association group, on policy form 7050. Certificates were issued to Maryland residents under that group policy on certificate form number 7050 CRT from December 2010 through October 2013. We are seeking a premium rate increase of 176% for all certificates. Acknowledging Maryland regulation, Genworth would be willing to implement the requested rate increase over 12 years with no more than a 15% increase in each year. This rate increase will impact approximately 1,200 certificates. These certificate holders have received one prior rate increase of 15%. For all the product series which are part of this rate increase filing, Genworth will continue to evaluate whether additional rate increases will be needed as experience emerges. Premium increases result in a very important and impactful decision for many policyholders. We know this because we talk to our customers every day. To support our policyholders, we have a dedicated team of specially trained customer service representatives who are highly trained to take calls and provide support related to rate increases. Our customer service representatives are ready and willing to help our policyholders understand their options so they can determine the best course of action for their individual situation. We also have websites and tools that provide policyholders with helpful information on why rate increases are needed, options they may have, the value of coverage, and frequently asked questions. Last year, we launched the Coverage Needs Estimator. This personalized online tool provides comparative information for policyholders to consider when thinking about their coverage needs. With this tool, policyholders can estimate the median cost of care services in their area and see how their estimated future policy benefits align with their potential care costs. We continue to offer policyholders subject to a rate increase a variety of options. They can choose to pay the full amount of the rate increase and maintain the current level of protection. From our overall nationwide experience on the rate increases that we have implemented since 2012, even with the variety of options provided, we have seen approximately 55% of our policyholders choose to pay the higher premiums as of December 31st, 2022. Or instead of paying the full increase, our policyholders can make customized benefit adjustments to find the right balance of affordability and protection for their individual situation. Choice 2 policyholders would be offered our new flexible benefit option, which has been submitted to the Maryland Insurance Administration for approval. This option is designed to have a reduced but still meaningful set of benefits and provides the stability of a premium rate guarantee until 2030. Genworth also offers a 1% compound benefit increase option that policyholders who already have a benefit increase option can select to reduce benefits. This option is already available on Choice 2 and has been submitted for approval on Flex 1. Policyholders who elect this option may retain their higher accumulated daily or monthly maximum with 1% compound increases going forward. For policyholders who decide not to pay any future premiums and who do not otherwise qualify for another option to maintain the policy while ceasing to pay premiums, we voluntarily offer a non-forfeiture option that equals a paid-up policy. With this option, if the policyholder becomes claim eligible, Genworth will reimburse eligible expenses up to the amount of premium paid minus any claims that we have previously paid. In addition, a policyholder will still have access to the care coordination services our company provides. I hope that the comments today have demonstrated that Genworth actively manages our business to try to ensure that we will be here for our policyholders when they need us most, to make sure we are available to provide the answers you need, and to pay eligible claims if and when those needs should arise. To date, Genworth has paid over $26 billion to our policyholders on nearly 350,000 claims for eligible long-term care benefits. Genworth is committed to keeping our promises to our customers and paying all eligible claims. But again, actuarially based premium and rate increases or policy adjustments are important to our ability to do so over the life of these policies. Genworth is in a unique position relative to other carriers with a material LTC concentration. Almost 62% of our total reserves back long-term care liabilities, and this number is projected to increase to approximately 68% by year-end 2026. Any reserves that are released due to the policyholder elections, including elective terminations or reductions in benefits, are used to support the LTC business and its claims paying ability. As I previously noted, all proceeds from approved LTC premium increases will remain in GLIC and be used for the sole purposes of paying LTC claims. None of the benefits from approved LTC premium increases will ever be paid to Genworth Financial, its shareholders, or other stakeholders other than GLIC policyholders. In fact, GLIC last paid a dividend to our holding company in 2015. In conclusion, Genworth remains committed to working with the Maryland Insurance Administration to implement actuarially justified rate increases in a reasonable and responsible manner, keeping in mind policyholder interests and concerns. Genworth appreciates the opportunity to participate in today's hearing. I would be happy to answer any questions from you, Brad, or members of your team.
Thank you very much, Alex. I'll turn it over to my team first. Jeff or Adam, did you have any questions for Alex?
Yeah, my question would be the same as the last question I just asked. So Alex, if we could not, if the MI does not approve what you requested, so what is your plan for these policies?
Thank you, Jeff. If the approval is not for the full requested amounts, we would plan to submit a later filing that would pursue the remainder of these requests. But upon full approval, we would not anticipate future filings on these blocks if experience emerges as expected.
Okay. So what I also noticed, so your prior filing was approved in year 2021, was under a lower rate increase requests. So can you explain why you request much higher rate increases this time?
Yes. We have, since the prior filing for each of these blocks, we have made a significant assumption update, which has resulted in an update to our rate action requests as part of our multi-year rate action plan for the nation. These assumption updates specifically addressed the risks around cost of care inflation. That was really the primary driver. And that is one of the reasons that the rate increases are now differentiated by the various inflation options. Overall, as you acknowledged, there are greater rate increase requests than what would be suggested by the remainder following the prior rate increases.
Okay, and also you mentioned the assumption updates. So how often you do assumption study and update?
Well, we analyze our experience every single year and assess the suitability of our assumptions. But that does not necessarily mean that every single year has a similar level of assumption updates based on the most recent emerging experience and trends. So we look at it every year, but that doesn't always equate to an update that necessitates changes to the rate action plans.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thanks, Jeff. On the topic of updating assumptions, one assumption that it looks like you've updated is your margin for moderately adverse experience. My understanding is that for the filings, when they were originally filed, it was 10%, which is, not a mandated number, but a pretty common number that a lot of carriers chose to use. The word moderate is not defined in the model law, and it was left to the actuarial judgment. But 10% is fairly common. And then last set of filings you had increased it to 15%, and now you've made it implicit, and it looks like you've increased it a little bit more. I guess I'd like you to comment on the necessity to be changing this assumption. I will say that we see a lot of other carriers changing the morbidity, mortality, lapse, but we're not seeing a lot of other carriers increase their margin for moderately adverse experience. So if you could speak to the rationale there, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely, Brad. And I would agree with a lot of the items you pointed out there, as far as 10% being more or less industry standard and often relied upon for for much of the last decade for rate filings. In Genworth's experience, the 10% standard was really not proving sufficient in the efforts of the namesake of the regulation, which is rate stability. We really saw that given the sensitivity of LTC liability assumptions, even less significant assumption updates could exhaust much of that 10% margin or even all of it in a single year. So following those experiences and the inability for 10% to really provide that stability, we saw a new approach. We did have an interim approach where we updated that to a different factor-based number of 15% instead of 10. But we preferred an approach that was more specific and granular in nature, where we looked at a bottom-up view of the key liability assumptions within the LTC portfolio, and we wanted to stress those to what we thought were more reflective of moderate levels. We thought, based on our experiences, that we could come up with a scenario that more accurately reflected what would be a moderate scenario. Admittedly, that is somewhat subjective and not defined in the regulation, as you mentioned, Brad, but more so to the extent that the 10% was proving insufficient. We thought this was a better approach to provide the sought after stability.
All right. I mean, I think we'll be communicating in SURF to try to understand more details. I mean, I think intuitively, I'm trying to get my head around how the uncertainty can be larger now than when things were originally priced, with all the new information we have and with the adjustments to assumptions that have already been made, especially when there are floors on certain assumptions. Lapse rate cannot go below 0. Realistically needs to be a positive non-zero number. There's already been a significant change from the original lapse assumption to the new ones, and there's a limit on how bad or low the lapse assumptions can possibly get. Same thing with mortality. Other assumptions aren't limited like that. But I think understanding the details of how you've determined that level of moderate, and I think we have an objection out in SURF asking you to quantify it for us, but the more detail you can show us about how the different assumptions impact that assessment on the level of margin to build in, that would definitely be appreciated.
We'll certainly do that, Brad, in SURF. And in short, I would agree there are varying degrees of risk to the various assumptions. To your point, lapse, I would say, is not nearly as concerning as the uncertainty around many of the morbidity components. And we'd be glad to elaborate on that and specifically how we're viewing each of those components in the macroeconomic environment.
All right, thank you. Then one other thing that I had a question about was, in the two individual filings, you're varying rate increases by benefit structure, and you're not doing that in the group AARP policy. Is there a reason that there is not variation by low versus high benefits and inflation versus no inflation in the group policy?
Yes, there is. Primarily, the differentiation of the rate increases by inflation options is a design for our plans for our individual blocks of business. We generally see the higher concentrations of the risks of both lifetime benefit periods and the election of high compound inflation options on the individual. So it's a more pressing risk. But that is a differentiation that we have considered and will continue to consider going forward as the group experience emerges. But we do have individual and group differences across the assumptions that led to the decision to not make that differentiation at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think those were all the questions I had right now. So thank you very much. And at this point, we will move on to the representative from Transamerica Life Insurance Company, please.
Yep. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Brad Rokosh. I am a senior director of the financial asset team at Transamerica. We want to thank the department for inviting us to participate in the hearings today. We completely agree with that the hearings like these promote transparency, and we're happy to participate today. Our filings we intend to discuss with you today consist of 5 legacy policy forms written by Transamerica Life Insurance Company and Transamerica Premier Life Insurance Company. Please note, these filings are combined now because Transamerica Premier has recently been merged into Transamerica Life Insurance Company. The rate increase would affect approximately 188 policyholders with an annual premium of approximately $400,000. These policies were issued from 2004 through 2012 in Maryland. We are seeking a 156% rate increase on these policy forms, but given the statutory cap in Maryland, we would ask that the rate increases to be spread over multiple years so that we can comply with the statutory requirements. This long-term care block of business is an important book of business for Transamerica. The company is committed to actively managing this business to ensure policyholder obligations are fulfilled. The long-term care industry at large made several assumptions when these policies were originally sold. Over time, as claim experience developed, our expectations have evolved, which results in updates to key pricing assumptions which have deviated from our original expectations. Generally, Transamerica and industry experience has shown that more policyholders are keeping their policies longer than originally anticipated. While this shows that people truly value their long-term care coverage, it also leads to significantly more claims than anticipated. In addition, increasing costs of long-term care services, people living longer, and people staying on claim longer than expected are also causing increased overall costs of long-term care payments. While these reasons for a rate increase are not unique to Transamerica, we believe we have a responsibility to do everything in our power to manage the business by monitoring overall experience, which supports the development of future assumptions or expectations, which will ultimately support actuarially justified rate increases. Transamerica is committed to providing our policyholders with alternatives to rate increases where possible. We understand the value of these policies, and we fully understand the inconvenience and potential challenges that these rate increases present for our policyholders. Therefore, we believe in clear communication with our policyholders, describing the need of these rate increases. Plus, we also need to provide flexibility and options for the policyholder. Transamerica offers a whole slate of potential benefit reduction options or benefit changes that our policies can take advantage of or to try to reduce or offset the rate increases. In addition to the traditional downgrades, we also provide a contingent non-forfeiture benefit option. Plus, we have new innovative cash surrender option. And finally, we are introducing a cost sharing option with a potential rate guarantee for policyholders who elect this option. Let me thank you again for participating in this hearing, and we greatly appreciate the opportunity and ready for your questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jeff, you can start.
Yes, the same question too, to Mr. Rokosh. And again, if the requested rate increase, if MI does not approve what you requested, what's your plan in the future for these policies?
Yeah, our plan would be to come back and file for additional rate increases, but it would be our intent to work with the departments to be able to find a plan around these rate increases that could be implemented over several years, just so it's transparent and so the policyholder knows what is expected to come down the road for them. So, but yes,
Okay.
We would file again.
Thank you.
Jeff, if you don't have any other questions, I do have a couple questions as well, Brad. So you mentioned that Transamerica Premier was merged into Transamerica, and so that's why these new TPL-IC policy forms have been combined.
Yes.
So are these the same benefits that?
Yeah,
or
they
are
were
there benefit differences
No, they were actually identical policies. They were just sold through just different distributions at that time. We historically always filed based on statutory companies. Since that statutory company does not longer exist, and TLAC, we just combined them. So we're doing that nationwide and not separating. But the benefits in the policy form generation are identical. So there is just some benefits distribution differences. The TPLIC policies, that distribution sold more compound inflation compared to the TLIC version, but otherwise it is exactly the same policy form.
All right. And what, from my understanding though, that there have already been rate increases approved for the Transamerica policies.
Yes.
3 15% increases. And then the Transamerica Premier policy had not had any approved increases. Is that accurate?
I have to go back and check in there, but I'm pretty sure they had some rate increases approved as well. So I'll clarify that for you. And it might not be that clear on the filing.
That they didn't have the same increases approved in the past. We might want you to target the same ultimate rate if they're
yes.
substantially identical rates, and make up any past, misbalance between the two blocks.
Yeah, I think that'd be appropriate to have everybody at the same premium rate going forward for these policies.
All right. And then I had some questions about the options that consumers are going to have in lieu of these rate increases.
Sure.
So the memorandum mentions 2 options that you're going to be providing. One is a benefit reduction and cost sharing, and the other is the buyback offer. Could you just give a brief summary of both of those options?
Yeah, so the cost sharing with the rate guarantee option is, it's like a co-insurance. So we're lowering the daily benefit amounts and then also applying a co-insurance percentage by that same amount. So if you had $100, we'd lower your benefit to $90, but if you were claiming for benefits under $90, that new benefit, you'd also be sharing in the cost. So it's giving that, regardless of the care setting, you're sharing in the cost of around 10%. Depending on the rate increase approved, that amount would vary. So it's really providing a co-insurance benefit or option for these consumers to share in the cost of their claims.
And there's one co-insurance being offered to all consumers. There's a table, I think.
There's a table that would vary
by benefit, but
it'll vary by bio, just from the differences in how claims would come in the rate increase. And depending on the rate increase finally approved by Maryland, that would take, so it offsets the premium that we would receive for the claims that we pay. So it's kind of like more of an actual equivalent justification point, depending on the amount. So
great. And then the buyback offer?
So the buyback is a cash surrender value option for the consumers. And so we are aware that a lot of policyholders, might be fed up with these amount of rate increases, and there's really no way of them getting out besides doing a normal contingent on forfeiture or paid up benefit. This is offering those individuals a portion or a percentage of our IFRS 4 reserves that we locked in 2020 would give 70% back to the consumer for that, and that is their offer. We feel it's just a more consumer friendly, just having them an option to, exit their policy if so desired. So we're not encouraging it. It is just an option for them.
It's 70% of the value, you said?
Yeah, 70% of our IFRS 4 reserve that we've been reporting. So.
All right. I think right now the memo just says X%. So we might be putting in an objection to have that clarified in SURF. But yeah, that's useful. Thank you for that. I think those were all my questions at this point. So thank you very much. Thanks to all the speakers from all the carriers. At this point, it would be time for any public testimony. Craig, has anybody spoken up in chat and indicated that they would like to speak today?
We have one individual with their hand raised, so we can call on them.
All right. I can't see that list. So do you want to call on whoever it is and let them speak, Craig?
Absolutely. Ellen Ohlendorf, I'm going to promote you to panelist so we can see and hear you. Okay, you do have to select, there should be something on your screen that you have to select. Ellen. Okay, there's another individual with their hand raised. We can move on to them and move back to Ellen if you like, Brad.
Yeah, why don't we try to do that as
Okay.
Ellen tries to figure out the technical issues.
Okay, Mr. Scott, we're going to promote you, Thomas Scott, to panelist. Okay. So Thomas Scott, so you should be able to speak and be seen at this point.
Good afternoon. Thank you. And thank you to the Maryland Insurance Administration for conducting this hearing and for the gentlemen from the various companies who are supporting, their company in the best way they know how. My wife and I purchased a daily benefit from Genworth in 2002. At the time, it was General Electric. We had a daily benefit of like $130 a day with a 5% inflation factor. It's unlimited benefits. And while there was no guarantee there wouldn't be rate increases, there was certainly a lot of discussion about you'd never had one before. Now, our experience now is a little bit different, with Genworth in 2014 requested a 60% rate increase from MIA, allowed 15% a year. In 2017, tried to sell the company to the Chinese, and that was stopped. In 2018, you were granted another increase for 15%. And in 2019, you sent a letter and said, hey, we're going to do it 150% over the next 5 to 7 years. And the costs, and we're currently under one of the 15% per annum on that. I think we're in the second year of a 3-year phase in on that one. And I imagine in 2024, Genworth will be going back and requesting more. I'm pretty much reconciled to the fact that it's going to go up 15% per year. That's the way life works. The series number on that, by the way, is 7035AT. Not one of the series that's affected in this current version. I guess we have to kind of like figure that if we started off with a total premium in 2002 of a little over $3,000, 20 years later, it's going to be $30,000. If you do the math at 15% a year, taking out the various years that it was held stable. Not sure I can afford that. I mean, I certainly could afford 3, but 30K is a big hit 10 years from now. So I certainly would like a lot more scrutiny gone into the actuarial basis for these increases, not just people saying, this assumption and that assumption. It's like, what's going on, because we're suffering here on the consumer side. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Scott. And I definitely empathize with what you're saying, and the level of increases have been very large to date. And as you say, they look to go on in the future. I will just say, that we as an agency try to do our due diligence for every single one of these rate filings, and really dig into these actuarial assumptions and really make sure any increases we approve are justified. In general, Maryland has approved rate increases significantly lower than requested over the last 5 years, lower than a lot of other states. But at the same time, we need to balance the affordability considerations with the solvency concerns, and it really does a disservice to all policyholders if one of these long-term care companies goes insolvent. And there have been some large insolvencies that have caused a lot of pain and caused a lot of policyholders to lose value that they had paid for. And so, you know, we are doing our best to walk that line and, you know, approve the rate increases that are necessary to keep these companies able to pay the claims obligations they have, but to keep the increases as low as possible for consumers. And I would just say, you know, I don't think you should be pessimistic and expect an unending 15%. But you know, I cannot tell you any specific number of when it's going to end. But you know, I do think that there is a limit on these requests. But you know, I appreciate your feedback. And I can have my team look into your specific policy and maybe give you some more details if it would be helpful.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, Craig, do we still have Ellen wanting to speak?
Ms. Ollendorf, I've enabled your audio. So if you can hear us and speak to us, that would be great. Can you? Ms. Ollendorf? Right, let's try one more time to promote her to panelist and see if she gets that message. Ms. Ollendorf? Oh, here we go. She is coming in. We can't hear you. I think you may be on mute.
No, I'm not. I'm unmuted.
There you are. We can hear you now. Thank you so much.
No, I thank you for taking all this trouble. I will pretty much echo what the prior speaker said, so I don't have anything to add at this point.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Ollendorf. And you know, as I said, you know, our rate review for all of these is really going to focus, you know, on balancing those two considerations. You know, based on what we have approved over the past 5 years, you know, the final rate increases that we're going to approve for these policies should be significantly lower than what's being requested right now. But you know, we're still in the midst of our review. As I said at the beginning of the call, we're going to leave public comments open for 1 more month. It's realistically probably going to take us more than 1 more month to continue, you know, finish our actuarial reviews, and approvals will come at some point after that. But you know, I appreciate everybody from the public who came to speak today, and encourage you to you know, come to any future hearings that are on, you know, any additional policies. So I think if we don't have anybody else signed up to speak, then I think we can end the hearing today.
So I'm not seeing anyone else, Brad.
All right, great. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate the time today. And you know, public comments until March 28th. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us. Have a good one.